Hey guys, how are you? My name is Rachel and welcome to my channel. And today I want to share with you an exercise that's going to help you learn to roll your R's. This is going to help you gain confidence when speaking Spanish, especially. There's lots of words that have this like rolling R sound in it, like carro, which means car, and marrón, which means brown. And so we're going to get started. I actually want to, before we get to the rolling R part, I want to back up and reflect for a moment on the singular R sound, or ere in Spanish. Now, what I'm going to teach you now is going to help you to make this really nice R sound in languages like Spanish and Portuguese. However, in Portuguese, R can have different sounds. Actually, it can even make an H sound. So we won't get into that right now. I'll do a video on the Portuguese R's later, but I do want to focus on how to say R. So when you're saying R, especially in the middle of a word, or in Portuguese, or in a word in Spanish, that we want to have a really nice soft R, because a lot of the Romance languages don't really use the hard R like we use in English. Even to say R, like car, our lips go out, our jaw is very strong, and it's just a solid sound. In other Romance languages, like Spanish and Portuguese, it's a much softer sound. So I'm going to teach you in this first part how to pronounce that R, and we're going to take the R from the Spanish alphabet. So there's actually two R's in the Spanish alphabet. There's the first one, which is a singular R. We pronounce that ere. Okay, so we have an exercise, we're going to practice that. Once we practice that, in part 2, in video 2, we're going to review the second R, which is the rolling R. That's where you have two R's together. That is pronounced R, R. So that's what you're going to see in words like carro. So we'll get started with this exercise. This is an exercise that my dad taught me when I was a little girl. I'm very fortunate to have had a father who was interested in learning a language other than what he grew up speaking and knowing. So he taught me this exercise because I really wanted to be able to replicate the sounds of the language that I was hearing. And I think this is a great thing. So yeah, it's going to make you feel better about when you're speaking words that have R's in them. It will, it's my hope that it will give you more confidence. It definitely helped me to pronounce sounds and to recreate the sounds of a language correctly. It really gives you a lot of positive feedback, and it just improves your confidence and makes you more likely to practice the language and speak with native speakers. So without further ado, here we go. The exercise for practicing the R. So this is the R that we hear many times in Portuguese and Spanish. And I'm just going to pull from the Spanish alphabet. This is the letter ere. Ere. So we'll focus on Portuguese another time. Makes a totally different sound in their alphabet, but in the Spanish alphabet is pronounced ere. So the exercise is that we're going to call on our friend Eddie. So in Eddie, the word Eddie in English has a very nice double D sound, and that has a very soft way of expressing the tongue behind the teeth. So we say Eddie, Eddie, Eddie. See how the tongue just kind of flicks up? We don't often think, at least I don't, always think about how I'm saying something, right? We just learn to speak the language and we go. But we're really using a lot of apparatus in our mouth and stuff to be able to make these sounds. So I just want to show you what you are doing when you are saying the word Eddie, because this is something that anyone who speaks English can say, right? So again, my tongue is just going to very lightly flick up towards the top of my mouth behind my teeth. So Eddie, 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 Eddie. So I'm not saying Eddie, I'm saying Eddie. Hey, Eddie, right? So You got it already, right? You can say Eddie, Eddie, Eddie all day long. Perfect. So this is the first part of our exercise. When we say the word or the letter ere, we want to start practicing the name Eddie. And we're going to say Eddie, 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 Eddie. And I want you to focus on making a very, very light touch with your tongue behind your teeth. So Eddie, 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 Eddie. It seems very simple. Trust me, when you are getting into this exercise and you're practicing making this sound and using your tongue behind your teeth this way, it's going to really allow your tongue to get used to relaxing so that you can make that really nice R sound, that ere sound in Spanish, and then eventually the R sound. So once again, we're going to say Eddie, right? So Eddie, 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 Eddie. Once you feel very comfortable with this soft Eddie, then we're going to tweak it a little bit and we want to say ere, ere, ere. So instead of Eddie, 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 and closing, we're going to say ere, ere, ere. And see how the mouth is more open? It's almost like you have a big smile. So we're happy to be pronouncing R in other languages, right? So we're going to say ere, 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 and see how quick of a movement it is. So I just want you to practice that ere, 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 ere. All right, so this is going to help you say words in Portuguese like para, and in Spanish para, y like para ti. So this is for you. And I hope that you will practice this whenever you can. This is not something that you want to worry about doing right away or mastering right away. It definitely takes some time, but it is something you can do. If I can do it, you can do it. So I hope you will practice this and get familiar with saying the letter ere, ere, ere. And I will see you in video 2 for the rolling of the R's.